The 4th of July brought fireworks to the world of recruiting, and we have got to talk about it because multiple top-level teams are now in a situation where they have seen their classes rise, and this is only the beginning, and we need to break down a few big-time commitments today. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Were you excited about what your team was able to do on this 4th of July? And let me know what you're thinking there, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, because I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy that content, be sure to like, comment down below. But with all of that being said, let's kick it off with the big name from the class of 2021, JT Tuimalau, who we finally got his decision, and lo and behold, it was the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, this is something that most people had probably expected, especially for sure once the visit to the Alabama Crimson Tide was canceled. There was conventional wisdom dictating that the two teams looking in a fantastic position for a long time for JTT were the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Ohio State Buckeyes, but once that visit was canceled, Ohio State looked to be in a uniquely positive situation for the talented five-star in the class of 2021. I know there was some speculation as to whether or not he could go to Oregon, and I certainly think Oregon did a fantastic job making this interesting, and that's not surprising. Oregon can recruit, they've had a history of showing they can recruit, and they even showed it today how well they can recruit, and we're going to get to that. But at the end of the day, when you look at what JTT had said previously, that he was so high on Ohio State, even having never visited there, once he visited and reports were coming out that the visit was knocked out of the park, he loved it, it was a family environment, I think a lot of people kind of felt like that was the writing on the wall. So JTT signing with the Ohio State Buckeyes isn't that surprising, and what a pickup for the Ohio State Buckeyes, because they're currently in a situation where their pass rush duo and the defensive line they got from last year consists of a Jack Sawyer and a JTT, so I'm very excited to see how that plays out with the Buckeyes. I'm very excited to see how this goes, and Larry Johnson is a phenomenal recruiter, and he shows it once again. But let's talk about the Oregon Ducks, who we talked about just briefly just now with JTT, because they don't leave today empty-handed. In fact, they leave today with a five-star offensive tackle, a part of this class, in Kelvin Banks, the five-star offensive tackle from the Houston, Texas region. Now, this right here is a massive win for the Oregon Ducks, winning over Kelvin Banks from the likes of the Texas Longhorns and Texas A&M. Now, the Texas Longhorns and Texas A&M, both teams thought to be in a very good position with Banks because of their in-state status. But when you look at the situation in its entirety, the Oregon Ducks, like I said, they recruit at a very high level. Mario Cristobal is a guy that recruits at a very high level, and Alex Marable is a really, really good offensive line coach, and this was a big battle to win over Texas and Kyle Flood and Jeff Banks, and then the Texas A&M Aggies and Josh Henson, because the Aggies in particular looked to be in a very good position for Banks. The Texas Longhorns had done a good job getting as close as they did at the end of this race, but the Oregon Ducks are leaving today with a phenomenally talented player, and they have to feel good about themselves. Even though they may not have won on JTT, they do leave today with a five-star offensive tackle, which should pay massive dividends for the Oregon Ducks down the road. The Oklahoma Sooners are in a situation where their good night started last night and has only continued in to today, because the Oklahoma Sooners last night, we talked about this morning, get a commitment from four-star offensive lineman Jacob Sexton, and they follow that up with Xavier Bryce and Robert Spears Jennings, two three-star guys. This right here is a big thing for the Oklahoma Sooners because it puts them back inside the top 10, and this is before the rankings have adjusted again due to that glitch on 24/7 Sports. So I'm very interested to see this week, early this week it should be, I'd imagine, when the rankings kind of readjust and get kind of corrected from this glitch, where the Oklahoma Sooners end out after this weekend, because they have had as good of a weekend as anybody, getting help on the offensive line, and then two talented athletes. Both guys I think we really need to watch. Both of these guys, very talented football players, good additions to the Oklahoma Sooners class, but the Oklahoma Sooners are still heating up, and I think they're in for a big July because multiple top-level prospects very much well enjoyed their time at the Champ U barbecue and have had Oklahoma in high regards for quite some time, and a lot of those prospects are looking to commit here this month, so we are absolutely going to be following that. And finally, in recruiting news, the Alabama Crimson Tide land Antonio Kite, four-star athlete, and this right here is big. I talked about Kite yesterday, and if you were to ask me an individual who I thought could be a riser in this year's class due to all of the chaos experienced in the past year, and an individual in this class who might benefit the most from a complete and continuous senior season with no interruptions and then the ability to camp, Antonio Kite would be among the top of that list. Sitting just outside the top 300, I think that he could easily be a top 300 guy per 24/7 Sports when this is all said and done, and the Crimson Tide love that they're able to get him a part of this class. Kite, standing 6'1", 180 pounds according to 24/7 Sports, really impressed the Crimson Tide staff when he was there camping, and the Tide staff have to love that they are having him a part of this class, because you look at the class and you have a guy like Niblack and then you have a guy such as Amari Kite, and both of those guys are poised for big rises in their senior season, so it's good that the Alabama Crimson Tide got in on both of those players early. But the Crimson Tide, much like the Oklahoma Sooners, are in a situation where I think we're going to see their recruiting continuously rise. Right now they sit just outside the top 10 at 12, but they sit number 3 overall in the nation if we talk about the average rank per recruit, just behind Ohio State and LSU, meaning that even though the Crimson Tide are outside the top 10, the average rank of the player in their class is phenomenally talented, and they find themselves within the top 5 in that category. They just still have 9 recruits to this class, and there are only 2 institutions right now within the top 20 recruiting classes in the nation that have themselves placed within the top 20 with less than double-digit recruits: the Alabama Crimson Tide and the USC Trojans. Both teams recruiting at a very high level right now, but Alabama looks to continue this surge, and it's one that we have got to keep an eye on, and there are a lot of talented players we're going to be keeping an eye on here in the coming weeks. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking, let me know what you thought of July 4th, and let me know how your university did. That's it. See ya.